To help my future wife successfully kidnap me this time, I strolled over to the intersection where she snatched me in my past life and just threw myself onto the pavement, rolling around. Okay, this feels incredibly awkward. Definitely not right. Suddenly, 4 bodyguards in dark suits popped out of nowhere. They gently carried me into a car. Mission accomplished. Perfect. Time to get some sleep. When I finally woke up and recognized this familiar room, I rubbed my hands together in excitement. Shui, baby, I am coming for you. Was that a bit too much acting? I quietly scanned my surroundings. If my past life is anything to go by, she should be secretly hiding somewhere nearby right now. I slowly sat up in bed, rubbed my forehead, and pretended to casually mutter to myself, ouch, why is my head spinning so much? Glancing around sneakily, I noticed the room was dead silent. I raised my voice. I feel so awful. Am I going to die? Is she really not here? That is impossible. She was right nearby in my past life. Is my acting just not believable? Fine, then. Time for a real performance. The Dwan School of Drama. Showtime. I pretended to collapse onto the bed in complete agony, but when I saw no reaction, I started to wonder. I am exhausted. Why has this woman not shown up yet? I gave up, flipped over, and sat up. Maybe I rolled around too much and lost all my energy. Or maybe I was just clumsy, but my left foot tripped over my right, and I face-planted hard on the floor. Damn, this hardwood is freezing. I scrambled right back up. Nobody saw that, right? That completely ruins my handsome, charming look. Oh, fine, so you are still not going to show up? I am out of here. But the second my hand touched the doorknob, someone grabbed my wrist and yanked me straight back onto the mattress. Looking at the woman standing by the bed, I begged, save me. She just hummed, save you? How exactly do you want me to save you? Looking at the woman by the bedside, a quiet spark of triumph flashed in my eyes. See that? You just couldn't resist anymore, could you? Shui, I feel so sick. Where does it hurt? I showed her my scraped, red hands and knees. I just had a bad fall, that is all. Who even brought me here? Me, obviously. My acting is just too perfect. It is exactly the same as in my past life. Wait, something feels off. Did I scare her by being too proactive? I propped myself up and leaned in for a kiss, but Gui pressed her slender finger against my lips. Hey, Akin, you are so forward today. Shouldn't we have a little chat first? What is there to talk about? If I knew you would react like this, I wouldn't have been so forward. Why do you not feel bad for me at all? But this woman was clearly distracted. Gui gently stroked my face. The warm touch gave her an almost unreal feeling. This is a living, breathing Akin. Just thinking about Akin being rescued by someone else in our past life makes me want to lock him up and keep him by my side. But if I do that, he will never smile at me again. Back then, because I locked Akin up, he spent the rest of his life running from me. Forget it. I will let him go this time. Gui reached out and opened the door. You can go. I was instantly, completely dumbfounded. Wait, what on earth? This did not happen in my past life. What is going on here? Why did this woman suddenly change her entire personality? I sat on the bed, completely frozen. Gui, why do you not care about me at all? Anxious and frustrated, I wondered to myself, isn't this about being together? Just say the words. Say them, and I will agree. Do we really have to walk the same tragic path from our past life? Wait, no. With Akin's personality, why would he ever agree to stay? Thinking this, she simply took a step forward and gave me a gentle push. I easily fell backward with her touch. This woman really hasn't changed a bit. What just happened was probably just some butterfly effect from my own rebirth. How about you follow me from now on, handsome? I will give you whatever you want. Hearing that, I immediately grinned. Her dark eyes stared intently, waiting for my reaction. Here it comes. Here it comes. Isn't this exactly what I was waiting for? Sure. Since you are willing to take me in, I will stay and keep you company. When others find out, they will only envy my good luck. I was not exactly sure how massive Gui's company really was. I only remembered the year I entered the entertainment industry. She acquired an entertainment agency and turned it into a top-tier powerhouse in just 3 years. In those 3 years, she did not have a single scandal. Though it seems my own debut also took exactly 3 years. Seeing me agree so easily, she was completely stunned. Why is this so different from what I expected? Akin, you said it yourself. No, taking it back. When I woke up the next day, the space beside me was empty. Ouch, my poor back. This woman is seriously incredibly strong. Walking into the massive walk-in closet, I looked at the men's clothes that perfectly matched my taste. I knew it. This woman is all bark and no bite. Right then, my phone rang. It was my manager, Fu Yaxin. In my past life, when I was relentlessly cyberbullied by the entire internet, he was the only one who kept finding me gigs and trying to clear my name. Unfortunately, he later offended someone powerful and unknown. His family suffered a terrible tragedy, and he had a complete mental breakdown because of it. He never managed to recover in the end. Thinking of this, I slowly closed my eyes. Those tragedies were probably all caused by his connection to me. I picked up, and Fu Yaxin barked, "You brat. I have only been gone on a business trip for 2 or 3 days, and you already caused a massive mess. Do you have any idea how fierce the entertainment industry is? Are you just ignorant? Or have you never seen how this works? How could you fall into a trap so easily? I am embarrassed to even say I manage you at the company. No one believed in you, Achin. I was the only one who believed you had what it takes. Things were finally looking up, but then this incident happened. Achin, the road ahead is going to be even harder." I froze. Fu Yaxin actually did not doubt me for a second. His immediate reaction was that I had been set up. I quietly let him finish his angry rant. "Sorry, I let my guard down this time." I sighed. "Actually, I was just pretending. I did not fall for their trap." Fu Yaxin paused, struggling to control his usual fiery temper. Shouldn't he be desperately demanding the whole story? Instead, he just said, "As long as you know." "Where are you right now? Hurry up and get to the company." He confirmed my mood was okay, sighed in relief, and hung up. I casually scrolled through the news headlines. A rising star uses dirty means to exchange for industry resources. I scrolled down further until the name at the very bottom slowly revealed itself. I hung up the phone and went downstairs, only to see the butler opening a car door. I thought that crazy woman had already headed to the company. I did not expect her to be waiting for me here. Getting into the passenger seat, I met her gaze. "Achin, where are you going?" "My manager told me to drop by the office. I have to make money to support our family, right? You are already with me, so there is no need to work so hard. Is my money not enough?" Saying that, she leaned in close. I looked at her. "Oh my, Gui is absolutely beautiful. But are we not still keeping our relationship a complete secret? What if you decide you do not want me one day? Shouldn't I prepare for that in advance?" Gui stared at me for a long time. "I won't." It took me a while to realize what she meant by that. "Won't what?" She did not answer me. Instead, she looked at me and said, "Fasten your seatbelt. Gui, you are so good to me, but if you ever abandon me, I will be all alone. I would not be able to handle that." Hearing my words, she suddenly slammed on the brakes with a loud screech. My forehead smashed straight into the windshield, catching me completely off guard. "We just got together and you are already thinking of breaking up. Huh? What is wrong? Did I make you feel threatened, or are you already regretting this?" I hurriedly shook my head. "I do not regret it at all. How could I possibly regret this when I worked so hard to get here?" Gui let out a soft chuckle, restarted the car, and drove us all the way to my company's entrance. I was in a hurry to get out, but she grabbed me and shoved a card into my hand. I nearly cried. "Gui, you are the best." I grabbed it and quickly stuffed it into my pocket. "Bye, Gui. Call me anytime if you need anything at all." I made a phone gesture with my hand, turned around, and sprinted toward the building. Gui called out softly from behind. "Tell me when you get off work, and I will come pick you up." I nodded. Only when reaching the door did I realize something was off. Why does it feel like our roles are totally reversed? I turned back in confusion, watching her stand there, quietly observing me. My heart inexplicably felt completely at ease. Fu Yaxin was already pacing anxiously right outside the company entrance. Ever since yesterday's incident broke, a bunch of reporters have been camping downstairs. I have to intercept Duan Chen. I cannot let him say anything stupid. But then he received a text message from his subordinate. "Achin is already up in the office." Fu Yaxin looked completely bewildered. How on earth did he get in? Why did I not see him? And those reporters did not stop him either. Fu Yaxin rushed upstairs in a panic. I was calmly sipping tea. I looked up. "Got any work lined up?" Fu Yaxin looked at me. "I have some inside information here. You can take a look at it, especially about last night. It caused a lot of trouble for the company, and your latest show got canceled." He sat down, scratching his head. "The internet's memory only lasts for 3 seconds. Every single time you miss an appearance, your popularity drops a notch. You did not have many opportunities to begin with, and now it is even worse." I simply curled my lip. "It is fine. The outcome was pretty much the same as in my past life. But back then, I was so depressed that I missed a massive opportunity. The Linhai Group is holding a massive audition next Tuesday. In my past life, the Duan family pretended to comfort me, telling me to rest while keeping this news completely hidden. They only let me out once the cast was set. I was actually touched at the time, completely oblivious to their scheme. But that drama ended up blowing up later on. Everyone except the main villain became a massive hit. Every single actor on that show skyrocketed straight to fame. The absolute first thing I have to change in this new life is attending that audition. Fu Yaxin noticed I wasn't anxious at all. He frowned deeply. Show some spirit, will you? You already have so few chances to get on stage. If you don't fight for it now, even the gods won't save your career. He pulled out a few scripts. See if there's anything you like. Get ready to audition for these in the next couple of days. I shook my head. I already have a target. I'm going to the Linhai audition. Fu Yaxin's eyes widened. Are you serious? I heard there are at least 1,000 people fighting for just a few spots. A bunch of A-listers and B-listers will be there. What makes you think you can compete with them? I answered, that's exactly why I have to go. Even if there's only a 1 in 1,000 shot, it's better than wasting time on these mediocre scripts. I turned my back to him. Fu Yaxin stared at my back, worrying and sighing at the same time. Fine, if you want to try, then try. It's not like one more failure will make a difference. I didn't reply. I just looked down at my buzzing phone. It was my dad, Duan Muin. I couldn't help but sneer. I haven't forgotten a single detail of my past life. I grew up in an orphanage. Later, the Duan family came looking for me, claiming I was their biological son who went missing years ago. I treated that family with absolute sincerity, but Duan Muin never once saw me as his own. Back when my peers maliciously framed me and smeared my name across the internet, he didn't lift a finger to help clear my name. Instead, under the guise of comfort, he locked me away under house arrest. Then he dragged me to business banquets to expand my network. Even though he knew my stomach was weak, he forced me to drink heavily every time, completely ruining my health. My acting, gigs, and opportunities were secretly stolen and given to his other son. He single-handedly ruined my promising career, leaving me to rot at rock bottom, sick, and constantly bullied online. Every ounce of suffering in my past life was planned by the Duan family. Slowly, I clenched my fists. The bitterness and rage from my past life were burned deep into my heart. Because of Duan Muin's relentless scheming, Gui had to take the fall for me back then, taking all those fake charges by herself. Such a gentle, sweet girl ended up with a tragic fate like that. How could I not hate the entire Duan family? I picked up. I cleared my throat. What is it? Duan Muin sounded concerned. Just like I expected, I saw everything online. Dad believes in you. Where are you? I'll send a car. I gave him a cold refusal. No need. The company is handling it. I won't trouble you. Fu Yaxin watched me, stunned by how calm and in control I sounded. But my actual tone was so pitiful, like I was cornered. His face was absolutely priceless. He muttered, could you at least try to sound convincing? Even I can't watch this. What do you mean trouble? You're my son, the future of the Duan family. The only bloodline your mother left behind in this world. If something happens, who will protect you if not me? He sounded so fake, so righteously indignant. I sneered. If you actually wanted to protect me, those online rumors would have been wiped out hours ago. At the end of the day, anyone can talk. Duan Chen, are you listening? I put him on speaker. Duan Muin kept playing the saint. The internet has been vicious. It must be hard for you at the company, too. Why don't you come home and rest? I replied cautiously, sounding completely submissive. I don't need to rest, but can I come grab a few things? Then I took a big sip of milk. Duan Muin chuckled. Sure, grab your things. Once you step foot in this house, you are mine to control. Of course you can, but I highly doubt your company is going to hand you any good roles now. Why not just leave showbiz and come back home to take over the family business? He made it sound like he desperately needed an heir, acting like a supportive father. I immediately feigned surprise. Really? I'm in such a mess right now. Making a comeback is hopeless. I might as well learn the business from you. Duan Muin froze. Haven't you always wanted to make it in showbiz? Don't force yourself, son. I have a banquet tonight. A lot of famous directors will be there, so I'll take you to meet them. There's no way he'd actually give the family assets to me. In his eyes, I can't handle the business. He thinks I don't even deserve to inherit it. Fu Yaxin, listening on speaker, knew to play along and silently mouthed. Tell him you will think about it. He watched me half-heartedly agree. Once the call ended, Fu Yaxin patted his chest. Oh, Chen, don't tell me you're actually some rich heir from a wealthy family who just came out here to experience normal life. If that's true, do I actually have a shot at turning my life around? I tossed my phone aside. Look, I was just adopted by a wealthy family. We don't rely on them, we rely on ourselves. Got it? I sounded like I was lecturing a child. After saying that, I silently laughed at myself. Aren't I relying on Gushui right now? But it doesn't matter. I will absolutely give it my all and build a massive career. Soon, it will be my turn to protect Gushui. Besides, Duan Muxian is sending someone to pick me up later. Some of my crucial documents are still at the Duan family estate, but going there might make escaping difficult. Plus, the Duan family is bound to play dirty at the banquet. While wondering how to escape, I suddenly thought of my baby. Exactly. I will just have Gushui pick me up. Right on cue, the Duan family drivers arrived. Unlike in my past life, Duan Mushin showed up in person this time. Terrified of drawing attention, he waited at the back door. Duan Muchian wore a fake smile, urging me to go because a lot of directors and producers were waiting. I cursed my old self. How did I fail to see right through his hypocritical lies in my past life? The banquet hall was packed. Walking right beside him, my presence did not falter for a single second. I narrowed my eyes. In my previous life, Gu Shui had me locked up at home. But when I finally broke out, I ended up at a party just like this. Back then, I fell for Duan Muqian's trap and drank that glass of wine. When I woke up the next morning, I found myself drowned in manufactured scandals. They treated me with total contempt, casually throwing me a completely worthless, tiny role. From that moment on, in their eyes, I became a pathetic rookie they could easily crush. Then he told me President Lee wanted to meet, saying she had massive industry influence. He urged me to chat with her, claiming he was always looking out for me. I chose not to rip his mask off just yet. The second my fingers touched that glass, my guard went up. I knew without a doubt that this drink was a trap. Seriously, again? Can they not invent a new trick? I looked around at the mocking eyes waiting for a disaster and smiled faintly. I smoothly handed the glass back to Duan Muqian and grabbed the tea instead, telling President Lee that I was truly sorry. I am on cephalosporin, so I can't touch alcohol. Since my dad loves me the most, let him drink this glass for me. You are incredibly generous, so you won't mind, right? I raised my teacup, offering a toast of tea instead of wine. Duan Muqian started to panic. After all, he knew exactly what was spiked in that cup. I asked him what was wrong. Didn't he love me the most? It was just a single drink. Surely he wouldn't refuse. That is when President Lee's expression iced over. She asked if the Duan family planned to humiliate her at this party. Duan Mutian's face darkened, muttering that it was just one drink. He hissed that he worked tirelessly to secure this chance for me, warning me not to make President Lee angry. I pushed the glass right back at him, asking why he had such a problem drinking it himself. It turns out his claims about loving his biological son were nothing but a lie. Duan Muqian gripped the glass, grinding his teeth in absolute rage. President Duan, your son has no manners. I will seriously have to reconsider our partnership. President Lee spoke coldly, but a sharp, calculating gleam flashed deep within her eyes. I quickly put on a panicked, worried face, begging her not to back out before even seeing what I was capable of. I promised I could bring her massive success. President Lee felt smug inside, but maintained her haughty mask. She demanded to know if I would drink. I stared at the glass with feigned hesitation, finally nodding to accept my fate. Everyone grinned, waiting for the disaster. Instead, I walked straight to the bar, snatched a freshly popped bottle of red, and poured a brand new glass. Since my dad is holding that other cup, taking it back feels wrong. Let this clean glass be my toast to you. With that, I downed the entire drink. Duan Muqian looked so furious, he nearly shattered his own glass. To be honest, I can't hold my liquor. I built up a tolerance in my previous life, but this time around, I've barely touched a drop. I checked my phone quickly. Gu Shui hadn't messaged back. She was likely caught up in work. It looks like I need to stall a bit longer. President Lee nodded, looking thoroughly pleased. Something in President Lee's eyes felt incredibly off. My guard flashed back up. I realized there might have been a trap hidden inside this glass as well. But the exact moment she reached out to touch me, the double doors were slammed wide open. Her face was twisted with pure fury, and a suffocating, heavy pressure instantly flooded the entire room. The noisy banquet hall instantly fell dead silent. Everyone turned to look at the newcomer, their chests tightening with sudden, absolute shock. The woman standing there was President Gui, despite their past history. They had sent an invitation to President Gui, but nobody actually expected the aloof and powerful executive to show up. President Lee quickly grabbed his wine glass and rushed over to welcome her, speaking with absolute respect and nervous energy. He told her that since President Gui graced them with her presence, they should have decorated the venue much better. He mentally slapped himself for completely messing up this golden opportunity. It was the perfect chance to kiss up to her, and he let it slip away. Nearby, someone let out a dry, awkward laugh. They truly did not expect President Gui to take time out of her busy schedule to attend their small dinner party. Gui ignored every single word they said from start to finish, simply scanning the room with a cold, detached expression. She explained that Chen had texted her to come over, so she would penalize herself with a drink for being late. Miss Lin noticed this, raised her glass, and downed it in one gulp before inviting her to take the seat of honor. A quick-thinking guest guided her right to the center, the most prominent spot in the hall, as Gui easily commanded the attention of the entire room. The atmosphere at the banquet instantly plunged to freezing, and someone whispered to their neighbor in utter confusion. They whispered, "Who is this woman?" "Quiet down," That is Gui from the powerful Gu family. Years ago, she had a major falling out with her family, fled her home, and built her own empire entirely from scratch. In only a few short years, she built it so big that even the Gu family fears her now. Rumor has it she faced heavy suppression during her early startup days, but she relied on her sharp business instincts and clean operations to establish a rock-solid foothold. Now, the entire industry respects her. Honestly, her incredible strength speaks for itself. Duan Mutian watched as the powerful big shots all swarmed around this single woman. Her identity was clearly far from ordinary. He quickly grabbed his own wine glass and eagerly made his way toward her. He introduced himself as the CEO of the Duan Group, saying it was their first meeting, but he had heard so much about her. Hearing his voice, Gui instinctively turned her head. On her face, which had just been ignoring everyone, a faint smile actually appeared. Duan Mushin's heart leaped with pure joy. Gui looked at the man before her. How could this possibly be their first meeting? He was the one who constantly schemed against Chen at every single turn back then, causing him endless injustice and almost ruining his entire life. Gui casually picked up a bottle of red wine nearby. Duan Mushin stepped forward, feeling incredibly smug. He never expected that out of all these people, she would actually take a liking to him. He figured she had great taste. President Li proactively took the bottle and filled his glass for him. Duan Mutian raised his glass and downed it in one gulp, as the crowd quickly pressed forward to exchange pleasantries. Gui quietly watched Duan Mutian. As he forced down glass after glass out of social obligation, severe discomfort began churning in his stomach. Duan Mutian reached down to rub his aching stomach. This burning sensation was becoming truly unbearable. President Li snapped in displeasure, asking if he was refusing to show President Gui respect. Duan Mutian felt completely helpless. He felt as though his entire stomach was drowning in the nauseating stench of alcohol. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he spotted me standing off to the side, quietly enjoying the show. I stood there holding a warm cup of tea, calmly watching my woman. Gui is just incredibly cool, exactly what I fell for. He called out for Chen to come over and meet President Gui. Looking at Duan Mutian, it was obvious he wanted to shift the trouble onto me. I was not scared at all, walking over with a bright smile. Duan Mutian introduced me as his son to President Gui. He suggested that since we were around the same age, we should chat more, as younger people always have things in common. Duan Mutian smiled from the side, then let out a nasty, alcohol-laced burp. He clearly thought he could use this moment to show Chen that he was looking out for his future. I politely told President Gui that my health was not great, so I could not drink with her, but suggested she let my highly energetic dad continue drinking with her instead. I did not hesitate to publicly reject the setup right in front of my woman. The crowd around us gasped in utter shock. They whispered that this kid was completely fearless, wondering if he even realized exactly who he was rejecting. But Gui simply turned her head, glanced over at me, and slowly nodded. She actually agreed to my suggestion, just like that. Resentment flashed in Duan Mutian's eyes. He knew that if he kept drinking like this, he would end up in the hospital. A look of deep struggle appeared on Duan Mutian's face, while Gui remained entirely silent. Her pale fingers gently traced the rim of her wine glass, quietly spinning it in her hand as the room grew increasingly tense. Gui leaned back lazily in her chair, watching me as I flashed her a brazen smile. She looked slightly dazed. Wait, why is Akin not angry? In our past life, he fought with me constantly over his father. I was feeling pretty smug, but when I turned my head, my heart stopped. Oh no, this is bad. Is Gui going to think I'm a terrible, unfilial son? Should I pretend to be a good son right now and go show some concern? Gui quickly looked away. Duan Mutian stood there hesitating for what felt like forever. Seeing this, Gui finally spoke up. Since you can't drink anymore, just finish the glass on your table. Duan Mutian stared at Gui in shock, then glanced at a equally stunned Li Yan. She knows everything. Gui completely ignored their panicked, silent glances. Cracking under the pressure, Duan Mutian drank the wine. Boring. Gui stared at her fingers and asked casually, did they really think they were being subtle? I knew something was wrong. Hurrying forward, I supported him. I'm sorry, my dad caused you trouble. I hope you won't hold it against him. He's getting old and doesn't know any better. Gui smiled, watching me walk over with real affection. Did she really take a liking to this young man? The glass of red wine I just drank was hitting me, making my head spin. Gui grabbed my arm to support me, whispering gently, Akin, you know better, right? So come with me. Absolute shock surged in Duan Mutian's chest. When on earth did this cheap son of his hook up with Gui? Lai Yan's face drained of color. What was she supposed to do now? She had actually tried to hit on Gui's man. Surely she won't retaliate, right? Gui quietly turned and walked toward the exit. She didn't give a single glance to anyone in the banquet hall, leaving behind a room full of completely dumbfounded onlookers. They all expected to see me get publicly humiliated, but to their absolute shock, the eldest daughter of the Gu family just walked out. But just as Gui reached the door, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. She looked back at me still standing in the hall and flashed a sweet smile. "Akin, aren't you coming with me?" I eagerly trotted after her. The onlookers sighed as they watched us, realizing he actually seemed incredibly happy about this. Whose idiot son is this? Death is literally knocking at his door, and he's still grinning. She aggressively shoved me into the passenger seat and immediately sealed my lips with a kiss. What kind of crazy surprise attack was this? Leaning back quickly, I stared outside. Gui turned and noticed my jawline. "Akin, you are not allowed to go to these drinking parties anymore," Gui ordered, sounding like she was negotiating. Pursing her red lips, she whispered, "Akin, you drank." Gui's face instantly grew incredibly dark. Suddenly, she floored the gas pedal. The alcohol was really hitting me now, making my head spin and my limbs feel heavy. Sensing my condition, Gui slowed the car down and tried to drive as smoothly as possible. She stared at me boldly, wearing a sweet smile. I squinted my eyes, secretly peeking at her as she seemed completely mesmerized by my handsome face. Feeling her intense gaze, I started pretending to be totally drunk. I groaned, complaining about how hot it was. Gui gently bit her lip and asked if I knew what I looked like right now. As she spoke, she reached over to turn on the AC. I turned my head, looking at her in total confusion. "You are teasing me without even realizing it," Gui muttered softly to herself. On the surface, I kept looking confused, but inside, my heart was dancing. I did not, I thought, shaking my head. I definitely didn't do that. Gui pulled over to the side of the road and slowly leaned in close. "Do you know how badly I wanted to grab you and take you straight home earlier?" I suddenly asked a highly inappropriate question. "Why did you treat my dad like that just now?" Achin doesn't know anything about our past life. He has no idea the father he respects so much will eventually ruin him. Should I try to talk to him about this right now? Gui suddenly fell silent. The cozy vibe in the car instantly turned cold and quiet. Shifting her thoughts, Gui spoke up. "Akin, did you know I did some investigating today?" Instead of answering my question directly, Gui started talking about something else. I just stared at her, totally confused. "You dummy. The people spreading rumors and all their fake posts have already been completely wiped out. My Akin is so kind-hearted. Why don't you guess who's actually trying to harm you?" I shook my head like an adorable, obedient puppy. "The person trying to destroy you is Duan Mushian," Gui whispered softly in my ear. "How is that even possible? I don't believe it." "You must be lying to me. My dad treats me so well. How could he possibly find someone to hurt me?" I shook my head frantically, gripping the seatbelt so tightly that my veins popped out. Then I reached out and pushed Shuyi away, exactly as expected. Honestly, it was a pretty brilliant acting performance. I silently gave myself a pat on the back. Gu Shuyi did not expect me to accept everything right away, either. She just wanted to warn me beforehand. She kissed me tenderly while I sat there, playing the part of a pathetic, abandoned little puppy. I knew Gu Shuyi had zero reason to lie to me. After all, I had barely spent any real time with Duan Muan anyway. It was only a few years at most, but Shuyi's words planted a sharp seed of doubt in my heart. Sitting in the passenger seat, I softly murmured that my dad would never do this. He is the only family I have left. Gu Shuyi reached out and patted my head to comfort me. "Be good, Duan Chen, you still have me," she said. I looked up at her cautiously. "Really?" The smile on Shuyi's lips grew even more radiant as she assured me it was true. She promised to always stay by my side, no matter what. I gripped her hand tightly and asked if she would ever abandon me. Gu Shuyi looked at me with warm, smiling eyes, saying, "Of course not. But that depends on my behavior. I definitely won't let you down, I promised." I nodded eagerly, kissing her small hand before continuing in a quiet, dejected tone. "I really feel like you are the only one I have left now." Gu Shui patted my hand comfortingly before starting the car. Her eyes were filled with absolute satisfaction. In this life, her Duan Chen could only belong to her. I sat there quietly, incredibly pleased with my own acting skills. My Shuyi was so good to me, but I soon lost my smile. She sped all the way home and dragged me straight into the bedroom. The next morning, the loud ringing of my phone woke me up from my sleep. I checked the caller ID. Well, look at that. It was my cheap father. After that drugged wine yesterday, he still had the energy to call. I almost felt sorry for him. A voice called out from the other end. "Duan Chen?" He sounded incredibly anxious and uneasy. "Yeah," I replied lazily. Duan Muin spoke up, pretending to care, though he was clearly wondering why I sounded so relaxed. "Hey, where are you right now? Gu Shuyi didn't do anything to you, did she?" Hearing his hypocritical concern made me sick to my stomach, but I pretended to be touched. "I didn't think you cared so much, Dad." She actually didn't make things difficult for me yesterday. She just handed me a card and told me to visit her mansion in a few days. Then she just left me by the side of the road. I said this to send a clear message he had better give up on trying to lock me up in the Doan family. Duan Muan rubbed his aching stomach, feeling a deep wave of disbelief washing over him. He was suffering while I was perfectly fine. He asked if she really didn't hurt me, and I said she was actually pretty nice. Except, a waiter told her someone had spiked the wine. I casually asked my dad if he knew anything about that. Duan Muan's heart skipped a beat, and he stammered, asking what wine I meant. He claimed to have no idea, silently panicking over how anyone saw it when Lai Yan swore the plan was foolproof. What if Gu Shuyi looked into his son and discovered he had conspired with others to drug Duan Chen? That would be a total disaster. Thinking about this, cold sweat poured down Duan Muan's face. He nervously asked if President Gu knew who did it. I acted completely confused and said no, adding that she just left me by the side of the road. Duan Muan muttered a quick statement about being glad I was okay and immediately hung up the phone. I stared at my phone in a fantastic mood, then slowly got out of bed to wash up, feeling just a little regret. Shui's bed was just so big and soft. I could sleep on it every single day and never get tired of it. What a shame we haven't gone public with our relationship yet, making it awkward for me to move in long term. After washing up, I walked into the living room, where the butler stopped me with a tray of plain congee and hangover soup. The butler explained that the eldest young lady had ordered this to be made for Mr. Duan. I was actually planning to grab breakfast outside, but my Shui is just so incredibly thoughtful. My stomach was feeling a bit uneasy after drinking last night, but a sudden trace of confusion appeared in my eyes. Did Gu Shui know I had a sensitive stomach? Shouldn't a standard breakfast have steamed buns and side dishes laid out? Why only this incredibly simple plain congee? Seeing my hesitation, the butler thoughtfully reassured me that I had nothing to worry about. Both the plain congee and the hangover soup were personally requested by the eldest young lady to be freshly prepared. Hearing this, my hand holding the hangover soup suddenly froze in midair. Talk about a dedicated butler. I quickly polished off my breakfast because I had a mountain of work waiting for me. Walking out, the driver respectfully held the car door open. He explained that the eldest miss had a lot of work to deal with today. She wanted me to apologize for not being able to drive you to the office herself, and she hopes you won't be upset with her. The driver delivered the message politely, though he secretly felt a bit of disdain. Was the eldest miss spoiling this guy a little too much? He had never seen their powerhouse CEO treat anyone with such a soft, humble attitude before. She was buried in work, yet she still felt the need to apologize for not driving him. Meanwhile, the luxury car seat massage function had me completely relaxed. I nodded happily. Pulling out my phone, I opened our chat and snapped a quick selfie of me sitting comfortably in the back seat. I sent it with a text, "I am up, ready to grind today." Her reply came almost instantly. "If you get tired, babe, text me and I will come get you." Reading between the lines, she sounded like a protective yet incredibly sweet wife. Honestly, it made my job feel like nothing more than a casual hobby to pass the time. I sent back an okay sticker, totally satisfied, and headed to the office in high spirits. Meanwhile, Fu Yaxing had been pacing anxiously in his room since dawn. Today, management was breathing down his neck. If he did not get real results from an artist soon, he and his entire roster would be packing their bags and kicked out the door. Fu Yaxing racked his brain. The other talents on his roster were completely average at best. No matter how he looked at it, his only hope was actually Duan Chen, though thinking about my stubborn, rebellious attitude gave him pause. Fu Yaxing felt a headache coming on and rubbed his temples, praying for a miracle. He hoped the casting for the Linhai crew would finish fast, crushing Duan Chen's unrealistic dreams so he would finally focus on normal work. Fu Yaxing paced back and forth, unable to sit still. Just then, voices drifted in from the hallway asking how a meeting with a major boss went yesterday. Was he happy with you? Did you actually land the role? The speaker was Tang Fo, who started at the company at the same time as Fu Yaxing. But unlike him, Tang Fo had already managed to launch a semi-famous star. Fu Yaxing knew all too well how cutthroat the entertainment industry could be from the very start. To land a gig, a rookie either needed incredible talent and connections, or they had to use some dirty, underhanded shortcuts. Just about every rising star in this agency had a wealthy family or a powerful backer pulling the strings. Fu Yaxing rubbed his chin, deeply troubled. Catching himself thinking about those shady shortcuts, he immediately cursed his own weak mind. He told himself he could never ruin Duan Chen's future just to save his own skin. Duan Chen was meant to be a true star, loved by everyone. I should go find out if there are other productions still looking for talent. But when he finished checking and walked back into the room, he found me lounging casually on the sofa, scrolling through my phone. Right as he sat down beside me, Tang Fu pushed the door open and strolled in. Spotting our blank expressions, he burst into a loud laugh, his words loaded with heavy sarcasm. Seriously, how can the gap between us be this massive? We went to the exact same school, yet I, the bad student, am already pulling in major results. Meanwhile, what is our star straight-A student doing? Why haven't you made even a tiny splash yet? Fu Yaxing clenched his fists but could not find the words to argue back, so he simply looked down, feeling the sting of the comparison. A truly great student would never brag about such a tiny achievement, let alone strut around acting so arrogant and high and mighty. I calmly set my teacup down on the table, silently giving myself a pat on the back. I really am a genius. Not only do I stay perfectly healthy, but I also know exactly how to roast someone. Fu Yaxing looked deeply stressed. He wanted nothing more than to cover Duan Chen's mouth. Tang Fu was definitely not someone they could afford to make an enemy of right now. Once management starts making cuts, the two of them will easily be the first ones thrown out of the building. After all, the guy actually has the right to brag. Tang Fu threw a smug look my way before turning back to Fu Yaxing. Seeing the formerly proud straight-A student acting so weak and submissive in front of him felt incredibly satisfying. Do not celebrate too early. The tables always turn sooner or later. What goes around comes around. Honestly, you might not have to wait very long. Soon, everything you are bragging about will be completely worthless to everyone else. I yawned and casually set my phone down. On the screen was the web novel I had been reading. Tang Fu scoffed, saying he would definitely look forward to seeing that. A manager with a roster full of absolute failures. What kind of impressive results could he ever hope to achieve? Tang Fu's face looked pretty ugly when he saw how little I actually cared. He kept going, calling his own artists dull for just studying, acting, and watching the news. Unlike the talents managed by some other folks who have plenty of time to read novels, Fu Yaxing couldn't hold back and threw a sharp, sarcastic jab from the side, saying he should know in his own heart if he's really studying acting. Tang Fu scoffed coldly, then turned on his heel and stormed off down the street. Isn't he just relying on big corporate backing? Fu Yaxing cursed at his retreating back. If they ever cancel his contract, he'll just end up a stray dog on the street. He turned to me and earnestly muttered, Duan Chen, it's a blessing you didn't end up in his hands. Otherwise, he definitely would have dragged you into some really shady business. You need to prove yourself and work hard on polishing your craft. Otherwise, getting good roles is going to be tough. Of course, Fu Yaxing was half joking, but as he kept talking, the smile on his face suddenly froze. I was sitting cross-legged on the sofa, looking down at the novel. There was a faint red mark on my neck from accidentally bumping into something the day before. Fu Yaxing gasped, Duan Chen, tell the truth. What's going on here? Don't tell me you got involved with someone recently. Spit it out. What happened? The hand pointing at my neck slowly lowered. How is that even possible? I shook my head, never stopping my reading. Don't give me that. Not with those marks on your skin. Fu Yaxing had a clear look on his face. I wasn't born yesterday, so don't lie. I sighed helplessly. I really didn't do it just for a single role. I want all the roles plus that woman's genuine affection. Seeing Fu Yaxing's brain completely short-circuit, unable to process what I just said, I thought to myself, rather than hitting dead ends everywhere and waiting for a miracle, I should find a platform that actually recognizes my talent. Start by getting a firm foothold, then take it one step at a time. Fu Yaxing grabbed the table next to him, feeling a bit unsteady on his feet. Duan Chen, you are completely out of your mind. Come on, tell me who it is. Don't tell me it's the one who kept trending on social media before. What role could that person even give you? The corner of my mouth twitched slightly. I immediately denied it. No way. Do you really think that guy is worthy? Fu Yaxing's expression kept shifting as he asked if it was a boss from our company. Fu Yaxing guessed silently. Duan Chen usually doesn't go out much and barely knows anyone in the industry. Who could it be? I did a quick mental calculation. Gu Shui seems to have some partnership with this company. Since they work together, I guess she counts as a boss. I nodded. Our manager, Fu Yaxing, asked tentatively. No, I replied. Then the general manager? I denied it again. No. Fu Yaxing's face was starting to look a bit horrified. Don't tell me it's the executive president. Not the executive president either, I said, shaking my head. Fu Yaxing's heart skipped a beat. Then the CEO? His face was now a picture of pure confusion. None of the above, I replied. I thought about Gu Shui's actual position. Don't tell me it's a board director? Fu Yaxing's expression was even more shocked than when he saw the marks on my neck. Oh man, the room is spinning, he muttered. The table isn't enough to support me anymore. Quick, get me a couch. I need to lie down to hear the rest. I thought about it. Even the position of chairman fell slightly short of Gu Shui's real status, but there wasn't anyone higher up to name. I reluctantly gave a nod. Fu Yaxing's expression went completely wild. His mouth twitched. Duan Chen, You really don't do things by halves. When you make a move, you shock the entire world. Right now, Fu Yaxing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He could only try to comfort himself. Whatever, it's already done. At least the kid managed to land a powerful backer and an incredibly influential one at that. I slowly picked up my phone to read again. Right then, a sudden knock sounded at the door. I told them to come in. A few guys walked in, calling out for Brother Fu. I looked up, finding them slightly familiar. Fu Yaxing was surprised too and frowned slightly. Why aren't you guys training in the practice room? What are you doing here? These were his other managed artists, and they spoke with a smug, self-righteous confidence. We came here today because we want to talk about terminating our contracts. Fu Yaxing hid his shock and pointed out tactfully that they still had 3 years left on their contracts. Breaking them early means paying a massive termination fee, and that penalty is going to be a pretty heavy sum. Of course, if an actor blew up and became famous, they wouldn't worry about any fee. But these guys had absolutely nothing to do with fame. On top of that, they were raw rookies with absolutely zero fans and no actual skills. Are you looking down on us? The sleazy guy suddenly sneered. I frowned and said he is just looking out for you. The whole scene felt pretty familiar to me. Rumor had it that some third-rate agency was poaching talent everywhere. Tons of people fell for their scam back then. Luckily, my scandals were already public, so I was spared since that agency did not want me. Out of this entire group, you are the absolute least qualified to say that. The leader laughed sarcastically, looking down on me with total disdain for sticking with a useless manager. I really want to see how far you can actually go. By the time I am a superstar, you will still be struggling as a D-lister. Fu Yaxing was left pretty speechless after hearing that. To hear him talk, the second he left me, he was going to strike it rich and join the elite of show business. What kind of pipe dream was he living in? I gave the artist a meaningful look. Fine, if you want to leave, then go. No one is stopping you. As long as you pay the penalty fee, you can do whatever. The artist sneered. It better be. I hope when I get famous, you do not come around trying to leech off my success. Do not go telling the media or the public that we ever had anything to do with each other. Then, he slammed the contract onto the table. Since they were completely set on leaving, Fu Yaxing had no intention of holding them back. He grabbed the paperwork and marched them straight to human resources. Stamping, signing, and paying were all finished in one go. Checking the buyout fee, Fu Yaxing frowned. These guys had been here for ages, but they had never made the company a dime. Honestly, the agency had wanted to fire them ages ago, but because of their contracts, they just had to grit their teeth and bear it. Now, they were breaking the deal and paying the fine themselves, which meant the company would be thrilled. But with them gone, they would probably just dump some new rookies on me. Once Fu Yaxing sent them off, he slumped back into his chair, looking miserable. These days, actual talent people who can really make a name for themselves is almost impossible to find. If they dump more rookies on me, they will probably end up exactly like the ones who just left. Hearing him sigh, I turned to Fu Yaxing and asked with complete confidence, I have an idea, if you are willing to hear it. Fu Yaxing sat there, suddenly all ears. I continued, if you are willing to trust me, then from now on, I can guarantee us a bright, worry-free future. Fu Yaxing scratched his head, but you have to understand, I do not really have any major connections. All I can do is try my best to find resources for you. That is a massive disadvantage for your career. What Fu Yaxing said was completely true. After all, this was just how things worked here. Whenever an artist achieved even a little success, the agency would quickly assign them a more powerful manager, just to ensure the star would not make any mistakes down the road. But after going through that trending search scandal in my past life, I could not trust anyone in this agency anymore. I shook my head. Brother Fu, I am just a rookie who does not know anything yet either. Besides, I trust you. If you are willing, let us go draft a contract right now. Fu Yaxing knew his own limitations. Almost nobody would sign this kind of deal unless the manager was a top-tier legend. Duanch has massive ambitions. Are my skills actually enough to match those goals? But no buts. I cut him off. I am only asking you one thing. Are you willing? Fu Yaxing looked at my serious expression and nodded without a second thought. Let us do it. Here's to our future. Still, Fu Yaxing was not as confident as he seemed, never expecting Duanch to trust him so completely. I let out a quiet sigh of relief. Fu Yaxing was highly capable, as proven by his top rankings back in school. Besides, Fu Yaxing had rare qualities other managers lacked. He was just too timid when it came to solving problems. Remembering what went down in my previous life, I stood up and reached out to shake his hand. Here is to a great partnership. With that, the two of us headed out to draft the paperwork. Right as we reached the door, we locked eyes with someone. I rubbed my nose and kept my mouth shut. President Gu. Fu Yaxing reacted instantly, pulling me behind his back and bowing respectfully. Behind Gu Yi stood several of the agency's highest executives. They followed Gu Yi with complete humility. She gave me a brief, casual look, then swept right past us. Fu Yaxing let out a shaky breath as she left. President Gu has such an intimidating aura. But his voice trailed off as he noticed the woman turning the corner had suddenly stopped. She suddenly whipped her head around and glanced back. I wasn't even speaking that loudly, Fu Yaxing muttered to himself. My mouth twitched. Why is she staring at me? You won't even give me a break at work, will you? Fu Yaxing, go ahead and draft the contract first. I turned to Fu Yaxing and calmly told him I was going to the restroom. He told me to make it quick. Fu Yaxing nodded, then turned and headed upstairs to find a printer. Just as I passed the emergency stairwell, a small hand yanked me inside. I knew my dear Gu Yi missed me. I faked a panicked look as I let her drag me in. Gu Yi reached out and gently grabbed my wrist. A massive headache was definitely coming on. Someone might walk by outside, I warned. They won't, Gu Yi replied, not stopping. There is a bunch of executives right around the corner. What kind of blind idiot would walk this way? She whispered, leaning in close. A moment later, she turned, pushed the door open, and left. I walked right into several company bosses waiting around the corner. I hesitated, not knowing if I should walk past them. Why are you coming from over there? Hurry up and get out. Is this really where you should be hanging around? President Gu's schedule must have leaked, bringing all these executives out. The eldest Miss Gu is a total hot commodity. Countless people want to cling to her. This kid is probably one of them. Do you think President Gu has some personal issue? Could she be constipated? Otherwise, why has she been in there so long? The bosses muttered at a moderate volume. I stumbled as I turned the corner, wondering if I heard them right. I stayed hidden and kept eavesdropping. Should we call a doctor? Is that really necessary? I was too embarrassed to keep listening. The high and mighty Gu Yi being misunderstood like this was just too funny. She stepped out next, and the bosses watched her face closely. You must be struggling. President Gu, you really work so hard every day. I have some high-quality herbal tea at home. I will prepare some for you. One boss flattered her from the side. Gu Yi thought about it. Duan Shen had been working really hard lately and staying up late quite often. Some herbal tea to nourish his body sounded good. I won't decline then, she replied. That was definitely the right move. The boss looked incredibly flattered. People who know how to talk really are built different. Just look at that. A single sentence and President Gu is in a great mood. Everyone around him looked on with pure envy. I pushed the door open and returned to the office. Hey Chen, did you know one of those executives out there? Otherwise, why would you just walk away and stay gone for so long? Since the two of us were partnering up from now on, I did not hide anything and just nodded decisively. Fu Yaxing gasped. The group that showed up today, aside from the eldest Miss Gu, they are all. Chen really has it rough. I had no idea what my manager was thinking, but I was pretty happy anyway. Fu Yaxing saw my good mood. Everything you are sacrificing now will be proportional to your future success, he said. Fu Yaxing handed me the contract he was holding. He figured I would study it, but I just flipped through casually and signed it with a flourish. Fu Yaxing was shocked. Duan Chen was way too trusting. Aren't you worried that the contract might hide some restrictive clauses that hurt you? Of course not. Since you are working with me, we are a team now, I said, handing it back. Yeah, of course. Fu Yaxing nodded. I looked at him. Now that it is signed, I will read for a bit. Remember to sign me up when audition day comes. I waved my phone at him. Fu Yaxing frowned at the time. Shouldn't you be working on your acting? Reading a novel seems like a waste of time, doesn't it? I shook my head. This book is the original novel for Linhai. The script will definitely be a bit different. I want to read the book first to get a feel for the plot, then connect it to the script later. I casually scrolled through my screen. The author of this book is actually quite excellent. The world building and values are executed flawlessly, and the plot is incredible. Fu Yaxing reacted a beat late, nodding his head. He got ready to head out and hunt for some good scripts. Only when he reached the door did he stop and wonder. All day long, I have been following Duan Chen's lead. Normally, he is the one listening to me. It seems Duan Chen really has his own ideas, which actually makes this old man feel quite proud. I sat there reading out of boredom. As someone from the post-death quick transmigration system who had lived through so many different worlds, the things I had seen were way more bizarre than any novel. This book was honestly pretty boring. I scrolled through my phone. Web novels these days all feel pretty formulaic. The plots are almost identical. Whenever a slightly unique one pops up, it almost instantly blows up. I checked my bank account. Could I write one, too? I casually opened my laptop, found a site, typed up a quick draft, and uploaded it. Then, I slammed it shut. In my past life, Around this exact time, I would have been at the hospital tending to my father. He practically ruined his stomach drinking, didn't he? There are still some belongings at the Duan family home. I need to get them back. I slipped out of the office, hailed a cab, and headed to the hospital. Duan Nguyen always cared deeply about keeping up appearances. He was staying in the hospital's top-tier VIP suite and probably wished he could hire 10 nurses to wait on him. I knocked and pushed the door right open. "Oh, Chen, you have absolutely no idea how worried I was. I was terrified that person would do something to you." The moment Duan Nguyen saw me walk in, his eyes immediately welled up with tears. His frantic act was actually pretty convincing. I just stood by the door, smiling as I watched him put on this little show. Did he think I didn't know? Before I walked in, he was just bragging endlessly to the nurse. In my past life, I probably would have rushed over to comfort him. Thinking about this, I forced a guilty expression onto my face and walked over. "Look, Dad, I am standing right here in front of you, completely fine." Duan Nguyen tried to read my face, but all he saw was deep remorse. He patted my hand, wheezing that he was just worried about me. Then, Duan Nguyen suddenly clutched his chest and coughed violently, looking incredibly weak and pale. He really wrecked his body drinking. I immediately tried to look utterly guilt-ridden. "It's all my fault. I shouldn't have come at a time like this and made your condition even worse." With that, I pulled out a bank card. "Dad, I have some money here. Please take it and buy some supplements." Hearing this, Duan Nguyen relaxed. He was probably thinking he knew his cheap son couldn't possibly distance himself. It looked like the kid still had no idea. Glancing at the card in my hand, a greedy glint flashed in his eyes. He looked at me, pretending to be deeply moved as he protested. "Our family isn't short on cash. That pocket change you make at the company, you really should just keep it for yourself. There had to be at least a few tens of thousands on that card, right?" After all, since this brat started working, he hadn't given the family a single dime. He must have saved up at least a little. He originally wanted to wait for the nurse nearby to prompt him a bit, so he could smoothly accept the card. But instead, he watched as I acted like I had just realized something. "Saying that's true. Since our Duan family is so rich, you probably wouldn't care for my tiny savings anyway." I sighed, shoving the card right back into my pocket, telling him I would just keep it then. Duan Shen looked utterly heartbroken, leaving Duan Muyan completely stunned. The nurse chimed in, saying she didn't expect his son to be so filial. She turned to me, telling young Master Duan not to worry because the president would be discharged very soon. The nurse next to him was actually pretty moved, but Duan Mayan felt like coughing up blood. He just forced a couple of dry laughs. I looked at him, saying that since he had plenty of people taking care of him, he probably didn't need me. "Can I just go straight home tonight?" I asked in a pleading tone. Duan Muyen's eyes flickered. He agreed, telling me that of course I could, since it was my home too. In his mind, he was planning to have the bodyguards lock the doors and trap me inside. I nodded happily. Then I turned around, went downstairs, and caught a cab back to the massive Duan family mansion. I stared up at the grand estate. Bodyguards and servants were stationed absolutely everywhere around the entrance. Passersby couldn't help but feel completely inferior, but I was entirely unfazed. After all, I had even lived in imperial palaces during my past missions. I pushed the grand doors open and stepped inside, acting completely cool. The servants nearby found it a bit strange. Did the sun rise from the west? Where was that insecure little young master? The butler spotted me, giving a stiff nod without any real respect. Calling me young master, he clearly didn't take me seriously at all. The servants watched as the confident me from a second ago suddenly retreated back into a timid shell, stuttering that I just came back to grab something. I stared down at my shoes, pretending to be terrified. The butler nodded, saying of course I could. Behind him, the servants scoffed disdainfully, muttering about me putting on a fake show. They thought I would have grown up after a few months outside, but I was still acting like a total punk. As I walked deeper into the house, the butler eyed me with even more intense disdain. He told me that if I didn't have any orders, he would get back to work. Apparently, President Duan still needed him at the hospital. Without waiting for my reply, he turned away, coldly mentioning that there was some food left in the fridge. He added that if I was hungry, I could just cook something myself. Hearing this, I shot him a silent glance. How could there actually be food in there? After all, the Duan family always bought fresh groceries and cooked them daily. No leftovers existed. Right then, a chef walked out carrying 2 plates of Australian lobster. Wait, isn't my dad sick? Why is he eating seafood? I narrowed my eyes, looking at those plates. Just then, the butler told the chef he was heading to the hospital to look after President Duan. He said the chef could keep them. Naturally, the chef grinned and agreed on the spot. The actual young master of the Duan family has to cook for himself, while the chef gets handed premium Australian lobsters. And that is just the butler's normal dinner. Back when I got this garbage treatment in my past life, what did Duan Muyin say? He told me to just deal with it. Looking back, Duan Muyin clearly wanted to keep me down from day one. But let's be real, the butler is just a servant. I am still the young master of the Duan family. Did they really think I would never snap? I stared at the overly arrogant butler and asked who actually paid for these ingredients. The chef instantly froze up when he heard that, but he still spoke up nervously to answer me. He said he usually buys the groceries. That means the Duan family paid for all of these ingredients. The butler frowned, looking annoyed, while the chef realized he messed up and shut his mouth. I stepped closer, eyeing the 2 plates of lobster. Since when did the butler become part of the Duan family? Since when did we start paying for his expensive meals? Honestly, I knew exactly what was happening here. After all, in my previous life, I spent my time locked away inside the Duan estate. The butler always bought high-end ingredients on our dime, claiming he only ate them occasionally and the family wouldn't mind. He figured he had worked here for decades, and even if I was the master's son, I wasn't a threat. Oh, that is just precious. Eating it occasionally somehow translates to thousands of dollars. But let's ignore that for now. As the young master of the Duan family, I am stuck cooking my own food. People would think I was the servant. The butler gets freshly cooked Australian lobster, while I, the actual young master of the house, have to boil plain instant noodles. No side dishes, nothing. They couldn't even leave me a single egg. The chef stood there holding the plates, completely terrified. He nervously offered to leave the lobster for me instead. He babbled that they had no idea I was returning today, otherwise they absolutely would have saved it for me. Meanwhile, the butler glared at me, clearly hating my attitude. Oh, how nice offering me the butler's leftovers. They really have zero respect for me. I narrowed my eyes, stepped forward, and snatched the plates right out of his hands. The chef let out a quiet sigh of relief and discreetly rubbed his aching wrists. The butler watched with a sneer, thinking I was pathetic for acting like a master just to grab some rejected leftovers. I smirked at him and whistled. Instantly, a golden retriever came rushing over. I set the plates down on the floor, calling the dog over to eat. I leaned down to pat the dog's head, watching the butler's face turn completely black. I just stared back at him. Why the angry face? No matter how you spin it, this was bought with Duan family money. As the young master of the Duan family, can I make that call? Since when does a servant run this house? What kind of master acts like this? He was a total coward when he walked in, so why the sudden backbone? This was totally out of character for him. The butler was absolutely seething. I kicked my feet up on the coffee table like I owned the place. Make me some dinner, I ordered, and nothing pre-made. I want something fresh and healthy. As I leaned back, the faint, suggestive marks on my neck were fully exposed. The butler's jaw tightened. Why was he acting so high and mighty? Did he actually find a powerful backer out there? Did he really think he was untouchable now? In his dreams, who knows how long his little sugar daddy will even last? Once that dies down, he will still come crawling back to us. The chef stood there awkwardly, watching the butler's face for any cue, since the older man had gone dead silent. He did not dare move. Do I need my dad's permission for a simple meal? Can I even tell a servant what to do? What are you staring at? Go make what the young master asked for. I pulled out my phone, pretending to be deeply annoyed. The butler knew if I complained about this, he'd get scolded. He decided it was safer to just give in. Fine, the butler muttered, his face incredibly dark. Slipping my phone away, I smirked and said in the most annoying voice possible that he should have just done that. Now I wasted my data. Make sure you reimburse me for that, butler. Hearing this, his face grew even darker. I stood straight up and walked back to my bedroom like I lived here. In my past life, I never actually came back, but I still remembered exactly where it was. Second floor, right by the window, with a killer view. Warm in the winter, cool in the summer, well ventilated and dry. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. It was obvious someone had been living here. There was a premium sofa, a projector, antique ornaments, and a solid wood bed. Wow, my father really put a lot of thought into this room, didn't he? I walked in, faking a pleasant surprise. I noticed an antique vase on the cabinet, picked it up, and turned it over in my hands. This is nice, I thought, then casually set it aside. The butler followed me in, watching me pick up a priceless jade pendant. He immediately panicked. Wait, young master, you can't touch that. President Duan treats these antiques like the apple of his eye. If it gets chipped, he will fly into a rage. I turned around, looking confused. You mean this? The butler strode right over, reaching out to snatch it away. In his frantic rush, he did not notice he bumped the corner of the table. The vase I had casually set down tumbled to the floor and shattered instantly. The butler stared in absolute disbelief. I calmly placed the jade pendant back down and looked at him with pity. What a shame. Such a beautiful vase, shattered just like that. Butler, you were way too careless. Cold sweat broke out down his back. That vase was the most valuable thing in the entire room. President Duan showed it off to guests every single time. It was shattered, just like that. You cannot blame me for this. If you had not been messing around with things, it wouldn't have broken. The butler panicked, terrified of taking the blame. That is a weird thing to say. This is my room, so everything in here belongs to me. Is it a crime to touch my own things? I put on a puzzled face, casually picking up a jade ring and spinning it on my finger. Besides, you could have just told me from the door not to touch it, and that would be that. Instead, you ran over, broke the vase yourself, and now you are blaming me. I laughed, washing my hands of the whole mess. The butler felt his heart bleeding. I looked around, frowned, and asked why it looked like someone had been living in my room. Do not tell me it is you. After all, you have the chef at your disposal and do not even listen to me. It wouldn't surprise me if you were. The butler was in a complete panic now. Duan Chen has a dangerous mouth. If President Duan actually believes what he says, I am in massive trouble. Unbelievable. I was planning to stay here tonight, but looking at this, I guess there is no place for me. I might as well take my things to the company apartment. I looked around in disgust, hiding my deep annoyance. Where is my stuff? This is supposed to be my room, but my things are gone. I walked up and patted the butler on the shoulder. Why are you spacing out on the clock? Your young master is asking you a question. Where is my stuff? In the guest room, the butler forced out, sensing the sudden danger. I chuckled softly. My own room, and my things get thrown into the guest room. It seems the Duan family never actually considered me one of their own. The butler stared at my cold, unyielding face. For a moment, he was frozen in place, looking completely defeated. I walked straight to the guest room, grabbed my things, threw them into my bag, and got ready to leave. Only then did the butler remember his actual job. Young master, I apologize. It is all my fault. This has absolutely nothing to do with President Duan. A simple apology will not make up for the damage you have caused me. Still, the butler certainly knew how to adapt. 1 second ago, he was facing a debt worth millions because of me, and the next, he could still talk to me this calmly, claiming he was entirely at my disposal. The butler quickly had security guard the courtyard gate to block me from leaving, but I was not in any rush. My phone was still on me, after all. I put on a show of walking over, staring at the circle of burly guards. Butler, you are being unreasonable here. What is the point of having all these people block my path? I turned to look at him. He just laughed nervously, saying he was only a servant. He secretly hoped that when President Duan returned, seeing how responsible he had been would get his punishment waived entirely. I did not freak out like they expected. Instead, I took out my phone, made a call, and put it on speaker. Sorry. The number you have dialed is currently powered off. My arrogant, reckless attitude slowly faded as I looked around helplessly. Was this idiot really thinking of begging his dad for help? President Gu has no time to deal with him right now. After all, locking him up here was President Duan's direct order. The butler smirked. I looked at him pleadingly, promising I wouldn't tell my dad about any of this. When the time comes, I'll just blame Da Huang. I still have too much to handle at the company. Could they please just step aside and let me out? Da Huang was the golden retriever. I was terrified my acting wouldn't convince them. I pinched my thigh hard, and it worked. Tears almost welled up. The butler just sighed, young master. I apologize. To keep you from causing any more trouble, please move to the guest room to rest. The butler signaled the guards to step forward, wearing the smug look of a villain who just got his way. I kept dialing, keeping it off speaker. The call connected instantly, and I made my voice sound completely helpless. Didn't you say we should grab a drink sometime? Come pick me up from my house, and let's do it. Gushi pursed her lips. She simply said okay and hung up. I stood up, my steps suddenly feeling light. Then they escorted me back to that all-too-familiar guest room. Somewhere along the way, a heavy gold chain was clamped onto my ankle. Honestly, it felt a little ridiculous. Even though things were playing out exactly like my past life, I felt strangely at ease. It must be because Gushi was here now. Watching me submit, the butler let out a cold snort and locked the guest room door from the outside. I casually dug through my bag, pulling out snacks to eat. Haven't eaten these since my rebirth. Honestly, they are pretty good. In my past life, my stomach was so weak the doctor banned junk food. I should probably still go easy on them. With a faint sigh, I used the quiet moment to carefully look around the room, back in this familiar room. Honestly, this crude chain isn't nearly as nice as the one my shui picked out for me. My mouth twitched at the thought. Trapped again, but at least someone is coming to rescue me this time. I sighed dramatically. Then, the heavy sound of marching footsteps echoed outside. I quickly kicked the snacks under the bed, instantly prepping myself to play the perfect, helpless victim. The butler was about to call President Duan when a massive commotion erupted at the entrance. He hurried over to check. A swarm of black-suited bodyguards escorted a woman inside. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor, radiating pure, suffocating authority. The butler instantly knew she was bad news. He asked who she was, but Gushi simply stopped. Her bodyguards stepped up with a towering presence, glaring directly at him. "Where is he?" The butler froze, wondering who on earth could have crossed a powerhouse like this. He begged them not to point weapons at him, babbling that he was just a regular butler. No other servants dared intervene. Getting dragged into this mess wasn't worth the risk. Not even close. Her sheer presence made it completely obvious she wasn't someone to mess with. Gushi completely ignored the butler and strode into the living room, searching for any sign of me. Her expression grew darker by the second. Suddenly, loud banging echoed from down the hall, followed by a frantic male voice. "Gushi, is that you?" Hearing my voice, she immediately headed toward the source. Terrified by her sheer presence, the butler trailed behind. Inside, I heard her approaching and deliberately rattled the metal chain on my ankle. "Gushi, did you come to save me? It's Duan Chen." She told me to step back. "Move away from the door." I complied immediately. The bodyguards quickly used heavy tools to force the door open. "Aren't you afraid the Duan family will retaliate?" Gushi let out a cold laugh, calling it a highly amusing threat. "Isn't Duan Chen the one being locked up here?" She glared at my confinement, her eyes flashing with pure ice. "Nobody gets to bully Duan Chen but me." The butler stood there, completely speechless for a long time. This woman exuded an overwhelming, terrifying pressure. The butler wondered if she actually had some kind of death wish. I actually got slightly worried Gushi might go too far. But no, I was a law-abiding citizen. My shui had to be the same. "Gushi," I called out softly. She snapped out of it, walking in and taking in my messy state. "I can't get this open," I said, lying straight through my teeth. Back during my missions, I studied these restraints. Picking this lock as child's play, I could easily build one of these from scratch if I wanted to. But hey, I had to give my shui a chance to play the hero rescuing the damsel in distress, right? Her bodyguards were sharp. They dragged the butler forward and commanded him to open it. The butler shook his head in absolute terror. "The key, I don't have the key. I can't open it. If all else fails, try prying it open with brute force. I am not a strong man. No way can I pry this open." Gui turned to look at me. I froze from the cold sneer lingering in her eyes, sending a shiver down my spine. Was I being too aggressive? Is Duan Shen a little scared of me? "Duan Shen, come here," Gui thought to herself as I walked over to her. "Duan Shen, I might have been a bit too anxious today. I should not have been so impulsive, but seeing you trapped, I could not stay calm. I am usually a good girl. Is this really the powerful daughter of the Gu family?" I pretended to be confused and nodded. "Gui is such a good girl, I've always known that." The bodyguards and I just exchanged glances. Where did I get the idea that she is a good woman? Gui nodded happily. I grinned. I know Gui is doing this for my own good. The bodyguards had weird expressions watching us interact. "I am sorry, Shai, but which one of them is actually the crazy one?" I looked down at my feet and whistled. Dao Wang came happily trotting over from the living room, running in circles around me. I smiled, patted his doggy head, and pointed at my feet. Dao Wang immediately understood, opened his mouth, and bit it right off. Then he stared at the rope on the floor in confusion. The dog's little head was full of questions. "Why does this look so much like the chain they used to tie me up? Is this guy a pet here too? Now you are free." I looked at her with a smug face. Gui smiled brightly and wrapped her arms around my waist. The bodyguard driving thoughtfully rolled down the partition. Gui sighed softly. "Duan Chen, why did you go back to the Duan family?" Sitting next to her, my eyes darkened. I still had some things left at the Duan house. "Let me tell you, that butler is just awful. He made me cook instant noodles for dinner while he ate Australian lobster himself, and then the man locked me up. I originally did not want the Duan family to know about our relationship. It would only cause trouble for you." I looked disappointed, making it seem like every word I said was out of pure consideration for her. "As long as it concerns you, there is no such thing as trouble. They were illegally detaining you anyway. That is against the law." Gui said it casually. I knew what she was thinking and quickly said, "It is fine. With you protecting me, I won't let them get to me. Do not do anything that might ruin your reputation." I reached out and covered her small hand, intertwining our fingers. "Let us just stay happily together like this." Gui smiled as she looked at our clasped hands. "Duan Chen, you are such a liar. You clearly were not scared at all earlier, yet you put on that panicked act just for me. You did not even wipe the snack crumbs off your mouth. Bad boy. You just wanted to make my heart ache for you. But what could I do? I was just so madly in love with him." Gui put on a fierce look and reached out to wipe the crumbs from my mouth. My world used to be cold and lonely. It was not until I met Duan Chen that I finally saw the light. I looked at her in confusion. Did I say something wrong? The car drove back to the Gu mansion. I sat at the dining table, having just finished my meal. I turned and saw her standing there in pajamas. I gulped. I am going to the bathroom. Is Duan Chen trying to run away? No, no. I helped you out so much today. You should at least thank me properly, right? The sky turned completely dark. There was no one beside me anymore. Kui was incredibly busy with work. After all, she was just one person running a massive company, so she barely slept before heading straight back to the office to work. I leisurely opened the wardrobe, grabbed a set of black clothes, and quietly slipped out the window. Dodging the patrols, I secretly headed back to the Duan house and gently tapped on the window of the butler's bedroom. The butler woke up with a start as a chilling sensation crept over him. I waved at him brightly. What do you want? I looked at him nonchalantly. I was just thinking, how do we make sure word does not get out? The butler instantly understood. Young master, do not worry. I absolutely will not say a single word. Please let me go. His begging was so comical I burst out laughing. Looking down at the butler on the bed, I narrowed my eyes. You look so pathetic. It made me remember my past life, dying of cancer. This butler brought me leftovers and threw them away instead of letting me eat. His words back then were exactly the same. The butler trembled in fear. Young master, I had nothing to do with this. I was just following orders. Every wrong has its cause, every debt has its debtor. I raised an eyebrow. Butler Lee. Only I looking at the terrified butler, I continued, but do not panic. How could a gentle soul like me ever kill you? Don't you agree? I sighed and snatched his wrist in a flash. The butler went completely numb, instantly paralyzed from head to toe. His phone clattered to the dirty floor. Butler Lee struggled weakly, begging me to let him go so he could tell me who hired him. I simply wagged my finger. TS key, S key, S key. I'll hunt down the mastermind myself so you don't cause any more trouble. Sorry about this. Smiling, I gave his shoulder a soft pat. Enjoy your little hospital stay. You can even keep my old man company. I leaped right out the window. Honestly, where should I go now? Maybe it's time to check out my Shui's company. I don't think I've ever set foot there. Suddenly, a panicked shout echoed from a dark alley nearby. What are you doing? I froze and slowly backed up. A gruff, threatening voice growled that someone paid top dollar to have him taken care of. Oh, top dollar? My eyes lit up with excitement as I slipped quietly into the alley. Sure, my stamina is absolute trash right now, but beating some basic thugs is a total piece of cake. The victim looked up. Bro, help me. They are trying to kill me. Please call the cops. The kidnapper spun around and glared, telling me to get lost. Don't go sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, or you'll end up dead without ever knowing why. The guy used the distraction to sneak backward, clearly trying to bolt. Looking at those massive thugs, I sensibly stepped aside to stay out of it. Don't worry, I hate sticking my nose in other people's drama. I'm just a curious guy passing by to watch the show. The kidnapper sneered, while the hostage looked completely horrified. Who on earth just stands around to watch an active kidnapping? Then I realized the target's face looked strangely familiar. So, this is the guy worth all that top dollar cash. Huh? The poor guy started talking fast to stall for time. At least tell me who wants me dead before you finish this. I watched with interest as the thug laughed, telling him he managed to offend the eldest Miss Gu. Wow, this mess actually involves my own family. I checked the guy out, totally average, and definitely not as handsome as me. I only wanted some gossip, but now I'm stunned. He looks so ordinary. Why would Gui have beef with someone like him? It honestly annoyed me. Why are so many random people trying to drag my Shui through the mud? When did I ever cross Miss Gu? The thug replied he should ask himself that, since everyone knows he works for President Gu. Tired of wasting his breath, the leader signaled his goon to strike, but I moved a whole lot faster. I casually flicked a pebble, sending the goon dropping to one knee. The boss turned to glare at me, his face twisting. I leaned back against the wall, casually tossing another stone. As the boss turned my way, I flicked my wrist again. The sharp rock struck him hard, loosening his grip. Whatever weapon he held fell straight to the ground. The hostage tried to flee, but the other thugs quickly cornered him. Get him. They thought I was just some weak kid, completely ignoring me. They never expected me to play the hero. I just stood there, calmly watching the angry thugs advance on me. The boss threw a heavy punch, but I whipped out my paralyzing spray and put them down instantly. Their legs buckled, and the thugs collapsed to the ground one after another. The leader stared at them in absolute horror. Boss, my whole body is completely numb. I cannot move. I sighed. I picked up some crazy skills during my world-hopping days. My self-defense moves were top tier, and I knew exactly how to target pressure points. I glanced down to check the time. It is getting pretty late. Will I end up bothering my shui? I decided to finish this fast as the boss finally panicked. He watched in disbelief as his last man dropped. The hostage was thrilled, shouting that he had no idea I could fight. Why did you wait so long to step in? I was terrified. Seriously, thanks for saving my life, man. The guy let out a massive sigh of relief and walked over, completely relaxed. Hey there, my name is Wang Cage. I was just leaving my father's office when these creeps jumped me. Wang Cage furiously kicked one of the downed thugs. Suddenly, seeing the thug's eyes wide open, he leaped back in terror, accidentally trampling right on another guy's hand. The poor thug's eyes nearly bulged out from the agony. Wang Cage waved his hands frantically, stammering his apologies. Wait, why am I even apologizing to them? I watched him in silence, picked up a nearby baseball bat, and tapped his shoulder. Wang Cage suddenly felt weak and utterly defenseless. His savior was turning against him. Hey, handsome, let's just talk this through. Put the bat down, please. I look thoughtful. That won't work. You're a high-value hostage. If you run off, I'd be taking a massive loss. I pulled out my phone and dialed the bodyguards. Once the bodyguards arrived, I explained the situation, grabbed my brand new friend Wang Cage, and casually walked away. Checking my phone for info on Wang Cage, I learned he was the sole heir of the Wang Group, but found absolutely nothing else. Why did they want to kidnap Wang Cage and frame my Gushui? It made no sense. The Wang family was strictly in cosmetics. Gushui's company was entirely about finance. The two giants didn't even have any business dealings. I threw Wang Cage into a cab and headed straight to the Gu Group building, dumping him on the steps outside. The guy was covered in dirt as we headed inside. A guard immediately blocked us, telling unauthorized people to leave. I told him I needed to take this guy to see President Gu. I asked him to step aside, but he just stared like I was an idiot. I shrugged and told him it was fine. I said I'd wait right there without getting in the way, then reached for my phone to call Gushui to come get me. But the guard shoved me back, trying to force me out with pure disgust in his eyes. He sneered that he'd seen plenty of guys like me and told me to keep dreaming. Why would the busy president ever see me? I just frowned and stepped aside, refusing to leave. The guard was turning red when a woman suddenly walked up. She demanded to know what the commotion was about, snapping that it ruined the company's image. The guard quickly explained that I was insisting on seeing the president without an appointment. He said he was trying to throw me out, but I wouldn't budge. His voice was incredibly respectful to her. She looked me up and down, warning me that trying to hit on the president this way wouldn't work. She said too many guys tried this stunt daily, and that I was breaking the rules and needed to leave immediately. She rolled her eyes, which completely set me off. I snapped back, asking if she'd eaten something rotten for dinner. I asked why her breath stank so bad. She sneered and ordered the guards to throw us out immediately. I held up a hand to stop the guards. So, this is how Gu Group executives act, completely ignoring the facts? I need to see Gushu. I'm not hitting on her. Someone paid big money to kidnap Wang Cage, the heir of the Wang Group, to frame President Gu. Are you sure you want to throw me out and ruin her entire business? Her expression instantly shifted. She definitely didn't expect me to drop the name of Wang Cage. She stared at me again. After all, the Wang family was a massive force in the cosmetics industry. A major dispute between them and the Gu Group would cause unimaginable chaos for everyone. She glanced down at the silent Wang Cage slumped on the steps, her voice suddenly shaking as she asked what nonsense I was talking about. She asked how President Gu could ever be involved in a kidnapping. I told her to let President Gu come down and decide for herself. I brushed the dust off my jacket and told her I'd caught the kidnappers, and they confessed everything. They used Miss Gu's name for the hit. If you throw me out and the criminals change their story, or the Wang family demands answers, what then? Can you take the blame? Onlookers were starting to gather. The woman was completely trapped now, her face pale with pure panic. Just then, a familiar, icy voice echoed from the elevator lobby, asking about the noise. I relaxed and turned around. Gushui walked toward us, radiating her usual icy calm. Seeing her, the executive instantly lost her attitude and bowed her head. She stuttered to President Gu that I was trying to force my way inside and even claimed she was involved in a kidnapping. She said she was just throwing me out, but Gushui's eyes locked onto me. That freezing stare softened in a heartbeat. She rushed over and gently took my hand. She asked why I was here and if I was hurt. Everyone watching was completely paralyzed with shock. Nobody expected the legendary President Gu to treat some ordinary guy with such warmth and worry. I squeezed her hand and leaned in close to whisper that someone was trying to frame her and that I had the witness. I gestured toward Wang Cage on the floor. A flash of pure steel crossed Gushui's eyes. She turned to the executive, saying she had targeted her personal guest without knowing the facts and caused a scene in the lobby. She told her that her behavior broke code of conduct and ethics, and that the company was firing her on the spot. Gu Shui ordered her to process her termination immediately. The executive turned absolutely pale. She begged for another chance, but the security guards dragged her away. People who step over the line always get what they deserve. It was just karma catching up. Gu Shui quietly told her assistant to take Wang Cage to a lounge, then cleared the room until only the two of us remained. She gently brushed the dust off my shoulder, asking what had really happened. She swore she never ordered any hit on the Wang family. Leaning against the wall, I told Gu Shui everything that went down in the alley, no details spared. The kidnappers got paid a fortune to eliminate Wang Kai, and they claimed you were the mastermind. The Wangs are in cosmetics, and you run finance. There is absolutely zero overlap between your businesses. Clearly, someone is trying to drive a wedge between you and ruin your reputation. Gu Shui thought for a moment and blurted out, "It is Duan Mutian." Exactly as I suspected, I sneered to myself. The guy who ruined my past life was back at it, using the same dirty tricks to destroy us. I gripped Gu Shui's hand, my voice turning rock solid. "We will destroy Duan Mutian legally and expose his crimes." Gu Shui nodded quietly, her eyes filled with complete trust in me. "I believe you, Achin," she whispered. Soon after, Wang Kai finally woke up. Once he realized he was framed and that I saved his life, he burst into tears and immediately called his parents to set the record straight. The Wang family quickly put out a press release clarifying they had zero beef with the Gu group. This was all a setup. Meanwhile, the bodyguards followed my clues and hunted down the real mastermind behind everything, Duan Mutian. Turns out, the second Duan Mutian discovered I was together with Gu Shui. He panicked. He feared his past sins would leak, so he tried using the Wangs to crush the Gu group and swallow up her entire family business. That is exactly why he planned the kidnapping, a perfect move to hit two targets at once. Our guards moved in fast, cornering and capturing Duan Mutian right inside his family villa. They also dragged up years of his dirty secrets, and Butler Lee was hauled off as his accomplice. In court, the pile of evidence was bulletproof. Charged with framing, entrapment, kidnapping, and unlawful detention, Duan Mutian got slammed with a life sentence. Butler Lee, who had abused his master, stolen from the Duan family for years, and assisted Duan Mutian in his evil schemes, received 15 years in prison. He would never be able to abuse his power to bully anyone again. And that corrupt manager at the Gu group who made my life miserable? She got busted for abusing her power. Not only was she fired, but she was also blacklisted from the sector, ensuring her arrogant self would never touch finance again. As for Tang Fei, the guy who spent his days mocking Fu Yaxin and playing dirty tricks to steal resources from other actors, internet users completely exposed him, leading to a massive boycott that forced him out of showbiz for good. Meanwhile, the sellouts who stabbed Fu Yaxin in the back got scammed by their new agency and hit rock bottom. But Fu Yaxin remained completely loyal, always having my back through the thick of it. Armed with the resources Gu Shui handed me and my knowledge of the future, I booked hit after hit. I went from a nobody to a top-tier award-winning actor. And through it all, I never once replaced my manager. I brought Fu Yaxin right along on my rise to glory. He avoided getting fired and instead turned into the absolute most wanted gold medal talent manager in the entire business. He got his happy ending. To show their gratitude, the Wang family signed a massive strategic deal with the Gu group. The two giants teamed up across industries, launching a highly successful beauty and finance partnership. Their joint venture absolutely boomed, becoming a legendary success story. Meanwhile, Gu Shui and I finally broke our past cycle of tragedy. It was a beautiful, sunny afternoon as I held Gu Shui's hand. Standing right at the top of the Gu group tower, we looked down at the bustling city. I leaned against her shoulder and whispered that I was too foolish back then, making her suffer so much. Gu Shui turned and pulled me into a soft hug, her eyes warm. She promised we would never be apart again. Now, it is my turn to shield you. I am no longer some lost kid who needs to be saved. I am your partner, standing right beside you. Together, we will grow the Gu group and shield each other through the years, never drifting apart. Gu Shui smiled and nodded, happy tears quietly rolling down her face. I gently wiped those tears away and leaned down to kiss her, the bright, warm sunlight wrapping around both of us. I had braved endless chaos across those quick transmigration worlds. I used to think this second chance was just to fix my old mistakes, but meeting Gu Shui changed everything. This life is for protecting her. It is about making sure good wins and the wicked face justice. The bad guys, Duan Maiyan and Butler Lee, are rotting behind bars. Meanwhile, Master Fu and the Wang family actually have a bright future ahead. Shui and I are deeply in love. We are staying together forever. I actually made it in both my career and my love life. Everything beautiful finally arrived, just as promised. I, Duan Chen, did not fail my lover or my true friends in this second life. Punishing evil and doing good brought things full circle. For the rest of my days, I will stand with Gu Yi. We will protect the right path with kindness in our hearts. We are going to write our own happy ending. With love and warmth,